Welcome back, everyone. Ready to dive into another week of cybersecurity chaos?
Oh, absolutely. Always something new, right?
You said it. And we're kicking things off with a pretty alarming story. A cyber attack in Ukraine just hit Russia's energy grid, causing, get this, billions of rubles in damage.
Billions. Wow, cyber warfare is getting very real, very
No
fast.
kidding. And that's just the tip of the iceberg this week, folks. We've got ransomware takedowns, data privacy controversies, and some pretty scary vulnerabilities on our plate.
Definitely a lot to unpack.
So let's get started. We're going to dig into all this and more, drawing on reports from sources like, well, the usual suspects, The Washington Post, Bleeping Computer, TechCrunch, and a few others.
Sounds good.
But first, we have to talk about a story that's been making waves in the U.S. 17 employees at CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, were recently put on administrative leave.
Oh, I saw that. And 10 of them were regional election security specialists.
Yeah, that's the part that's really concerning. These folks are the front line for supporting our election infrastructure. And with the 2025 elections right around the corner, this kind of shakeup is, well, not exactly reassuring.
Especially with CISA still operating without a permanent director, it just adds another layer of uncertainty, doesn't it?
It does. And the timing is particularly odd, considering all the praise CISA's been getting for their work in previous elections.
Right. I mean, both Republicans and Democrats have commended their efforts.
Exactly. Like Michigan Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson, she specifically highlighted CISA's role in helping them strengthen election security. And then you have Michael Adams, the Secretary of State over in Kentucky, also praising their work.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes you wonder what's really going on here.
Well, you also have Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, right? She's been publicly criticizing CISA, saying they've strayed from their original mission.
Yeah, there's definitely some tension there.
Makes you think, doesn't it? What does all this internal turmoil mean for the future of election security, especially heading into such a crucial election year?
Definitely something to keep a very close eye on. All right, let's shift gears for a bit and talk about the fight against ransomware. There's been some movement on the Phobos front.
Oh, yeah, I was just reading about that. They indicted 2 Russian nationals. Let me see if I can remember their names. Roman Berezhnoy and Igor Nikolaevich Glebov.
That's right. They were allegedly behind, get this, over 1,000 cyber attacks.
1,000. That's insane.
It's unbelievable. They were demanding ransoms from victims, threatening to expose stolen data and all that, operating under the names 8base and affiliate 2803, if you can believe it.
What's interesting is that this was a joint operation. The U.S. Department of Justice teamed up with Europol to take down 27 servers linked to Phobos.
Yeah, that's got to hurt. But I can't help but wonder, will this actually put a dent in their operations? We've seen these groups bounce back before.
True, but every disruption helps, right? It sends a message that law enforcement is getting more effective at international collaboration.
I guess so. It just feels like a drop in the bucket sometimes. But hey, it's a win.
Definitely a step in the right direction.
Okay, moving on to a story that's, well, let's just say it's raising some eyebrows. Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, they've gotten their hands on some pretty sensitive financial data.
From the U.S. Treasury, no less. We're talking about personally identifiable information, bank account details, even federal payment records.
Yeah, the whole shebang. And this has, unsurprisingly, sparked some serious concerns about, well, about everything. Data privacy, government overreach, you name it.
12 state attorneys general are actually planning to sue, claiming that this access was granted illegally.
And they're alleging that DOGE is trying to, this is where it gets a little wild, trying to block payments for essential programs like healthcare, childcare, and federal aid.
Oh, wow. That's a bold claim.
It is. Now, I'm not one to jump to conclusions, but this whole thing seems a bit, shall we say, suspicious.
I hear you. It definitely raises questions about the motives behind this data access. What exactly are they planning to do with all this information?
Exactly. And what kind of precedent does this set for government access to private financial data in the future?
A very dangerous one, potentially. This is definitely something we need to keep a very close eye on.
Agreed. Okay, for a quick update on a story we talked about last week. Remember the Paragon Spyware situation? Well, things are getting even more complicated.
What happened now?
Beppe Caccia, he's the co-founder of that Italian NGO, Mediterranean Saving Humans. He came forward saying that WhatsApp notified him of a suspected spyware attack.
Didn't his colleague, Luca Casarini, get a similar notification just last week?
Yep. So now we have 2 confirmed targets. both from the same organization and both potentially hit through WhatsApp.
I wonder who's behind this.
That's the strange part. Neither WhatsApp nor Paragon has named the government responsible. Italy has denied any involvement, saying their intelligence agencies wouldn't target journalists or legally protected individuals.
But Meta has confirmed there are victims in other European countries, too.
Exactly, so it's a real mystery right now.
Yeah.
Which is, frankly, pretty unnerving. Who's out there using this spyware and on whom?
And for what purpose?
A whole lot of unanswered questions. And it highlights, the lack of transparency around these powerful surveillance tools.
It's concerning, for sure. We need to know who's using this technology and why. It's a scary thought how easily this stuff can spread. Speaking of scary, all you iPhone and iPad users out there, listen up. You need to update your devices, like, right now.
Seriously, folks, drop what you do in an update. Apple just put out an urgent warning about a major security flaw. We're talking iPhones XS and later, and a bunch of iPad models, too.
And it's a bad one. Hackers could potentially take full control of your device.
Yeah, they could basically run malicious software under your identity. It's like giving them the keys to your digital life.
And what's really concerning is that this vulnerability might be able to bypass USB restricted mode.
That's right, that feature that's supposed to stop unauthorized access through USB. Well, this flaw might just go right around it.
So even if you think you've got your security locked down, you might still be vulnerable.
Apple's already released updates, iOS 18.3.1 and iPadOS 18.3.1 to fix this. So go. Update now.
Don't wait for something bad to happen. Proactive security is key, always.
Couldn't agree more.
Okay,
switching gears now to a story that feels like it's straight out of a spy movie. Ukrainian forces launched a massive cyber attack on Russia's energy infrastructure.
Yeah, this one's pretty wild. The operation was called, let me get this right, Gazstroyprom. They targeted 22 companies linked to Gazprom.
And they caused some serious damage, didn't they?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Billions of rubles worth. They wiped out something like 2 petabytes of documentation, took down over 100 physical hypervisor servers, and knocked out 10,000 computers.
It's hard to even wrap your head around that kind of destruction. Like, how did they pull this off?
Well, reportedly, they had some help from the inside. Apparently, they used an insider to get access to the network.
That's a whole other level of scary.
Yeah.
It just goes to show you can have the best tech in the world, but you're still vulnerable if someone on the inside is willing to betray you.
Absolutely. It highlights the importance of insider threat prevention, having strong security protocols and background checks.
No doubt. But thinking bigger picture, what does this attack say about the future of cyber warfare? Are we going to see more of this kind of thing?
It's definitely possible. This could embolden other countries to launch similar attacks. We might be entering a whole new era of cyber conflict.
It's a bit unsettling to think about. And it raises some serious questions about the rules of engagement in cyberspace.
Absolutely. The international community needs to start figuring out how to regulate this kind of activity before things spiral out of control.
Agreed. Okay, let's move on to something a little less apocalyptic. This story is a reminder that even in the age of sophisticated cyber attacks, some old school tricks still work.
Oh, you mean that SIM swapping case?
Yep, the one involving the SEC's X account.
Right.
Eric Council Jr. just pleaded guilty to hacking it.
Using SIM swapping? Wow, I thought people were more aware of that scam by now.
You'd think so, right? But apparently not. So for those who aren't familiar, basically he transferred the phone number linked to the account onto his own device.
Giving him complete control.
Exactly. And then his buddies used the account to spread a fake message about the SEC approving Bitcoin ETFs.
Talk about market manipulation. That could have had some serious consequences.
No kidding. And it shows that even the most high-profile accounts can be vulnerable to this kind of attack.
It's a good reminder for everyone to take those extra security steps, like enabling multi-factor authentication and being super careful about who you give your personal information to.
For sure. Okay, now on to a story that unfortunately is all too common these days, a data breach.
Ah, yes. The Hospital Sisters Health System, or HSHS.
Right. They just confirmed a cyber attack that exposed the data of, wait for it, 883,000 individuals.
That's a huge number.
Yeah, not good. The attack happened back in August 2023, and it disrupted operations at all 15 of their hospitals in Wisconsin and Illinois. Hackers were inside their network for over a week.
I bet they got their hands on a lot of sensitive information.
Oh, they did. Names, addresses, social security numbers, medical records, you name it. Basically a hacker's dream.
And healthcare institutions are such prime targets, they're often lagging behind other industries in terms of cybersecurity.
It's true. And what's really frustrating is that HSHS didn't disclose the full impact of the breach until just this week, months after the attack.
I wonder why they waited so long. I mean, investigations take time, but that's a long delay.
It is. And it makes you wonder if they're really doing enough to protect patient data. I mean, people deserve to know if their information has been compromised so they can take steps to protect themselves.
Absolutely. Transparency is key in these situations.
Ah.
Hopefully, this will be a wake-up call for HSHS and other healthcare providers to prioritize cybersecurity and improve their incident response protocols.
Let's hope so. Okay, on a more positive note, there's been some interesting news in the cloud security space. Check Point-Wiz are joining forces,
I saw that they're forming a strategic partnership to offer comprehensive cloud security solutions.
which is a pretty big deal, considering they're both leaders in their respective fields.
Definitely. And it makes sense. I mean, with more and more companies moving to the cloud, the need for robust security solutions is only going to grow.
Especially with all these hybrid cloud networks popping up. They can be a real security nightmare if they're not properly configured.
Exactly. So this partnership seems like a step in the right direction. It could give businesses the tools they need to keep their data safe in these complex environments.
Fingers crossed it works out. And speaking of the future of cybersecurity, let's talk about AI. It's a topic that's been generating a lot of buzz lately, and for good reason.
Yeah, AI is changing the game in a lot of ways, both good and bad.
Right. And Microsoft's AI Red team just released a report that dives into some of the potential risks.
Oh, I read that one. It's pretty insightful. They analyzed over 100 different AI products and identified a whole bunch of vulnerabilities and challenges.
Yeah, their main takeaway was that we need to be a lot more cautious about how we develop and use AI. It's not a magic solution to all our security problems.
Definitely not. We need to be aware of its limitations and potential for misuse.
One thing they emphasized was the need for a deeper understanding of how these AI systems actually work.
Right, we can't just blindly trust the technology. We need to know what it's capable of, how it can be manipulated, and how to protect against potential attacks.
And they also talked about the importance of using automation for large-scale testing, which makes sense. I mean, these AI systems are complex, and we need to be able to test them thoroughly and efficiently.
But at the end of the day, human judgment is still going to be crucial. We need to be able to interpret the results of these tests and make informed decisions about how to deploy and manage AI securely.
I'm curious, what were some of the specific risks they identified? I mean, they mentioned things like AI-generated scams and bias in text-to-image models, right?
Oh yeah, those were some of the big ones. AI-generated scams are basically phishing attacks on steroids. They use AI to create super convincing fake emails, websites, even synthetic voice recordings. It can be really hard to tell what's real and what's not.
Yikes, that's scary. And what about the bias in text-to-image models?
Well, those models are often trained on these huge data sets, and if those data sets contain inherent biases, those biases can end up in the output of the models. So you might end up with images that perpetuate harmful stereotypes or reinforce discriminatory practices.
That's a big ethical concern. We need to make sure that these AI systems are being developed and used responsibly.
Absolutely. And the Microsoft report also touched on some vulnerabilities in chatbots. They found that hackers could manipulate some customer support chatbots into revealing sensitive information about the company's internal systems.
So basically, they hacked the chatbot to get access to confidential data.
Exactly. It just shows that we need to be just as vigilant about securing our AI systems as we are about securing our traditional IT infrastructure.
Makes sense. It's a whole new world out there. It's a lot to think about, that's for sure. We're really entering uncharted territory with all this.
Yeah, it feels like we're just scratching the surface of what AI is capable of, both for good and for bad. And that's why it's so important for cybersecurity professionals to really stay on top of this stuff.
Yeah.
Adapt our strategies, learn new techniques, and work together to address these emerging threats.
Speaking of working together, that partnership between Check Point-Wiz, that was a pretty smart move, right? Pooling their resources to tackle the cloud security challenge.
Oh, definitely. It's a good sign, actually. It shows that the industry is recognizing that no single company can have all the answers anymore, especially in a field as complex and constantly evolving as cybersecurity.
Right, it takes a village, as they say.
Exactly. Collaboration is key. So I guess stepping back and looking at everything we've talked about today, what are the biggest takeaways? What should our listeners really be focusing on?
Well, I think one thing that's become crystal clear is that cyber attacks are getting more sophisticated and more damaging. I mean, look at that attack on Russia's energy grid. It caused billions of rubles in damage. That's not just a digital attack, it has real-world consequences.
And it's not just nation states we have to worry about. Cybercriminal groups like phobos are getting more organized, more ambitious. They're hitting businesses, hospitals, you name it.
And it feels like they're always one step ahead.
Sometimes it does feel that way. But it's important to remember that we're not powerless. We can make it harder for them, We can build more resilient systems, be more proactive about threat intelligence, and work together to share information and best practices.
So what are some concrete steps that companies can take?
Well, first of all, we need to move away from that old perimeter-based security model. It's not enough anymore. The attack surface is too big now, with cloud computing, mobile devices, the Internet of Things. We need a more comprehensive approach, a layered approach that encompasses not just technology, but also people and processes.
So it's not just about having the latest firewall or antivirus software.
Right. We need to train our employees, raise awareness about security risks, and really create a culture of security within our organizations. And we need to be constantly learning, adapting, staying ahead of the curve.
But it's not just up to individual companies, is it? The government has a role to play too, right?
Absolutely. The government needs to set standards, coordinate responses to major attacks, and provide guidance and support to businesses and individuals. But, with all the uncertainty surrounding CISA right now, it's hard to say how effectively they'll be able to do that.
Yeah, that whole situation's a little unsettling.
Okay.
We need strong leadership and a clear strategy when it comes to cybersecurity.
Couldn't agree more. Well, we've covered a lot of ground today. It's been a bit of a whirlwind, hasn't it?
It has. But I think it's important to end on a positive note. I mean, despite all the challenges, there's still a lot of innovation and collaboration happening in the cybersecurity world. People are coming up with new ideas, new technologies, new ways to fight back.
That's right. And that's what gives me hope. We're not going to solve this problem overnight, but if we work together, if we share knowledge and resources, we can make a difference.
And that's where platforms like CybersecurityHQ come in. They provide a valuable resource for professionals to connect, learn, and stay up to date.
Exactly. Whether you're looking for a job, a report, or just want to keep your finger on the pulse of the industry, CybersecurityHQ has got you covered.
Their weekly newsletter is a must-read for anyone in this field.
Over 70,000 professionals subscribe to it, so you know it's got to be good.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to encourage everyone to take a moment to reflect on what we've discussed today. Think about the implications for your own organizations and stay engaged with the cybersecurity community.
It's an ongoing battle, but it's one we can win if we work together.
Well said. And remember, CybersecurityHQ is here to help you every step of the way. CybersecurityHQ, your hub for jobs, reports, news, and a newsletter read by 70,000 plus professionals weekly.